BTC made a new all-time high exactly as predicted in my last public YouTube update. So I will give you my in-depth analysis on what I'm looking at on BTC. I actually found something super interesting again, which I want to walk you through. I will also have a look at Ethereum and Solana. So it has to do with some high time frame channels that I have just found on this chart. So what I will be comparing again is the price action that we had right here to the price action that we have right now. Because if you remember the last public video that I've done, it was this swing long trade here on BTC, which played out perfectly. I gave the absolute low. But before we have a look at what's to come next, I do want to just get 1 minute of your attention to have a look at the calls that are made within my altcoin streams as well as on public videos. Okay, so let's have a look at what I mentioned while price was still somewhere here. So it was in the beginning of June. So have a look at this and let me know what you think. So this was the altcoin stream, the altcoin weekly update on the 5th of June, where I called the BTC price action of the next 1.5 months in just one single stream. Always the easiest trades, right? We can take, or no financial advice, I can take this trade with a super low risk and just see how it goes. But this starts as a day trade. I would not say this is a beautiful swing trading setup. So giving the day trade, then I was looking for even a short trade. Let's have a look at this. Have to go to this pivot right here. Weakness, and then I would even use more local invalidations. But the target could be at least taking out 100, preferably even this down here, and then load this up into a nice swing long, yeah. Okay, so let's review what was happening here. During this stream, the first trade that I gave was obviously this day trading long down here, which happened on pretty much the same day or 1 day later. This long trade was meant to be taken into this short area right here. Okay, so the long played out perfectly, flipped it into the short trade. The short trade target was obviously this massive support that we had for the swing trade, which was this anchored VWAP, and the support that we had right below. So we can see this was taking a day trading long. I explained why this is only a day trade into the short trade, into the swing long, and the swing long trade is still running. So we have to be honest on that one and say these calls were pretty accurate. So let's have a deep dive into the price action and see what I think is most likely to happen next, as at the moment I do have a pretty good feeling for the market. So yeah, let's see. I was mentioning a channel. Okay, so we have to look at the channel from 2021. All right, so I want to mark this one out, connect these highs with the low that we had at 15,000. What we can see and what was super interesting was the price action around December 24 going into the start of 2025. So we can see we broke out of this channel, price held for quite some time. We back tested this channel for several times until we got this, we can call it failed auction, this dip into or below $80,000 where we simply tested the previous supply zone that we had and then saw another nice run to the upside. So why am I mentioning this? Although this is past price action. This pivot right here, or this price action, looks pretty similar to what we are doing here on a lower scale. So let's have a look at this and mark out this channel connecting this high on the 16th of December and the 20th of January and this low. So we have to go to the daily time frame and see that this price action actually looks pretty similar. It is only on the daily time frame, and before we were looking at the weekly time frame, but there is some similarities here. So we're connecting these highs, this low, we can see we broke out of this channel technically, and now we are bouncing on this top of the channel for a couple of times. So we tested this once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So for me, this is going to be a super interesting level because this is going to show me whether we can break out of this nice channel Or if we get the failed auction, and remembering what we've done in the past, I would have to look at the next supply zone to be tested. So in my opinion, if we lose the top of the channel, which has to be on everyone's chart and on everyone's mind, if we lose this and do the failed auction, I wouldn't be surprised to see 111 down to $110,000 tested, because this is exactly what we've done in the past. Next, we need to test the previous supply zone, which is going to be around here. So I want to be aware of this channel. I can't be bearish for as long as we stay above. For now, I still prefer a new all-time high, because this, in my opinion, is more probable at the moment. But the moment we lose the top of this channel, I have to be a little bit more careful and say a bigger pullback to come is probable. Okay, so this has to be on my mind, and I'm going to see or monitor exactly what's happening here, especially given that I'm in this beautiful swing trade from the lows. Maybe I will hedge this trade if we see this end in a failed auction. So the next thing I want to do is have a look at the best confluence for if we have a decent pullback, where I could potentially get into a new trade or compound my trade, which is fairly unlikely because I have a beautiful entry. But for the day trades, that wouldn't hurt to be aware of the next best confluence zone. So I keep this supply zone in mind, as I am very careful with trading anything in between this impulse that we had on the 10th of July. Okay, so let's have a look at some confluence zones. Always good to look at the high time frame levels. If you know me and my trading style, it's always confluence, context, entry. Okay, so the context is super important. We are in a valid uptrend. That is all good. So I can allow myself to look for longs on pullbacks. Also, I always need to check the volume, because if I just have a high time frame level without any volume confluence, for me, that's never the strongest confluence. So something that's already sticking out here is that on this daily at around 108,222, we also have the previous range point of control, pretty close to the previous range value area high as well. So I consider this more of a zone and not an exact level. And then I can check some anchored VWAPs, where I have to realize that this one is too high for me to be interested, because I just said I'm not that interested in trading in the middle of this impulse. We can see the anchored VWAP is bang on in the middle of this impulse. So for me, I like to stay out of this one. If I pull an anchored VWAP from the low that we had down here, I know that this has a better confluence if this is just going to move up to the upside a little bit more. As of now, I'm not going to use the anchored VWAP too much here, because I just need more time to validate this one. But on a good price location, these two confluences are already enough. So what I'm going to do next is just check a CC, because always it is super important that we don't trade in the middle of nowhere, right? So price location is a very big thing. Here we have good price location, because the retracement into 108,000 would line up with this CC. So that is going to be a level of interest for me. I'm actually going to delete the alert that I had below and place it just above this daily. So that is going to be right here where I am interested in this trade. What I like to see here as well is that this would be the retest of the trend line that we had from this previous all-time high. So this for me is the next big level of interest. It's going to be this zone right here. I would say that I'm only interested in this trade for a day trade. It's not a swing trade. The swing trade was down here. This is more of a day trade. And then I'm going to have to see the reaction, see if there's some nice 30-minute strength. A 30-minute market structure change is how I would enter this trade. Obviously, everything I'm covering here is no financial advice. This is just for educational purposes only. But if we saw the failed auction here, I would be careful until we hit this level, see the 30-minute market structure change and strength, where I would then enter a nice day trading long on BTC. Other than that, as I already explained, what I am looking at is to see if we get this failed auction off the top of the channel. Super important to keep an eye, because we've seen that in the past play out exactly like this. So we shouldn't ignore that. Besides that, I'm just monitoring low time frame price action. If anyone is scalp trading, I know there are beautiful opportunities in between. I, however, focus on the bigger trades, which you have just seen in my stream that I've done on the website over at chartchampions.com, where I called this entire price action of BTC. And that, in my opinion, goes to show we have to focus on the best trades only. This is what's paying the bills. The scalp trades in between are just the cherry on top. And something that I always try to say as many times as possible is we should focus on predefined levels. Do we have a good confluence somewhere on this chart for us to take the next best trade? In my opinion, that was happening right here. There was a beautiful confluence. We had some unfinished lows, SFP, beautiful trade. Up here, there was a beautiful short trade. Then we took it into the nice long trade. Do we have that good of a confluence where we are now? In my opinion, no. This is just a low time frame consolidation range. There are trades to be had, but for the better trades, we have to wait for the next bigger move, either to the upside or to the downside, to position us in some new areas of the chart where we have decent confluences. Okay, something that I practice or that I never do is short all-time highs, so I would only consider a short trade if we do this failed auction, but where we are now, I am not interested in a short trade. What I also want to do is have a look at Ethereum real quick. This is also picking up nicely, so it took some time for Ethereum to wake up, but now we can see a nice move to the upside. And I know our members, they followed the altcoin weekly updates. We are obviously positioned swing long on Ethereum, so I want to have a look on the higher time frame just to see what's most probable to happen next. So something that's super interesting on the weekly time frame is that we claimed the previous range point of control. We can see that right here. The next bigger target, and in my opinion, this is going to be the most important pivot on this chart before I myself look for a new all-time high. And this is this area right here. If we connect this all-time high from November 21 with the high that we obviously shorted, that was a short trade from the altcoin weekly update. This was the short here at 4,100. We took it all the way down to here. And if we connect those two highs, we get this nice trend line here. This trend line is lining up with the previous range value area high, a daily. I can now delete this key level because that was the short trade that we took back then. I'm not saying I would short something along that lines. We are way too impulsive on Ethereum. But I need to monitor what's happening to this area. I would always allow price to do a liquidity grab above the high of 4,111. If we then come back below, I would say this is super bearish. But I am not going to short this aggressive. As I said, we are too impulsive. But this is my reference point here to see if that is claimed. And if we get a clean break of this, I would honestly look for $5,000 on Ethereum next. This would be super strong, but this is the next big level to keep an eye on, to monitor, and not get overexcited the moment we hit that confluence. Because what we always see, we can see that in order flow, we can look at the open interest, we can look at the volume, the positive delta, negative delta that's coming in, and typically, most people are just too late to the party. They are going too long right into this massive resistance, which is too late. The long trade was down here or down here. Up here, it's time to stay patient. See if we can get the breakout. If we do, I'm staying off of any short trades and look for $5,000 next. Okay, so this is how I'm approaching Ethereum. Also, this increase was so impulsive, there's no long trade to be had where we are now. So on Ethereum, I need to wait for a substantial pullback, which is going to take some time probably, else I'm just staying out and monitoring this next. Then I also want to give a quick update on my Solana trade, which was also given publicly, gave this long trade below 100, and I gave the compound here at 126. So this played out beautifully as well. And there's only one thing that I want to highlight here. Okay, I'm still in this long trade. I'm now up, I think, 450% on this compound in the spot position. There's obviously no leverage involved. But what's going to be super interesting here, you can already see this right there is a target from my altcoin stream. $216 is my next target on Solana. there is one thing that I will pay attention to today, and that is the daily close that we're going to see today, because there's something super interesting happening here today where we are breaking out of these highs and we might get accepted into the previous range value area low. So we can see this previous range value area low acted as resistance once, twice, 3 times. Now if we get the clean break, I will see if tomorrow or at least someday the next week we are going to retest this zone, which is for me going to increase the probabilities of the move into 216 significantly. Because if we look at previous range volume and we trade based off volume theory, we can say getting accepted into a previous range value area low makes a rotation into the previous range point of control super probable. So the daily close today is going to be super important. As of now, we still have about 14 hours left on the day, so anything can happen really. We can still retrace this and even end the day in a bearish candle. So I'm going to have to stay patient and then monitor if that's going to be retested tomorrow, which I would consider super, super, super strong and a very nice sign of strength, potentially then allowing another 16.5% increase to the upside. So for me, there's no short trade to be had on Solana. I can see strength here. I'm just going to stay in my long trades and in my spot investment. So there's nothing else to do here. Other than that, I'm just going to monitor what's happening next. So it's super interesting to see how amazing these altcoins picked up. We had some great trades also on Bonk, for example. I gave this trade right here on Bonk also during an altcoin stream. This was up 200%, so it's just lovely and refreshing to see that if we just wait for the best levels, for the predefined levels, and then execute, we can get those amazing trades where we have runners that are, just achieving the best risk to reward possible. Because for these scalp trades in between, sometimes it can be challenging to have that good R&R. But with focusing on these trades, which in my opinion is the way to go in the altcoin market, then we can achieve great results. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it makes sense what I'm looking at next. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below, as I will have a look at that myself. And then, let's just see what the next couple of weeks bring. And I hope you enjoyed. I hope some caught this nice move. Once again, no financial advice, for educational purposes only. So see you in the next video. Enjoy the price action and bye-bye.